Hello, we should be live.
Whoa, that was quick.
You said go live.
I did. I didn't mean like go live. I meant like struggle with the technology, have it fail on you in interesting ways, get frustrated, turn things off, turn things back on again.
Oh, I'm still setting up the audio software to record, so that can still happen.
Okay, all right, all right. Yeah, please don't lull me into some kind of false sense that technology is finally behaving, because then we're just like one step away from the apocalypse. You know, we're almost doomed when technology starts to work well.
Yeah,
Because then the
yeah.
computers are making us dependent on them. It's a bad scene.
One of the things that,
Now it still says vacuum energy on the title for the live episode. Do you want me to just change
oh,
it?
yeah, that's my bad. I said reuse the old settings, and then I remembered to change the cover picture, but apparently not the title. Sorry, everyone. We had to
So
scrub
now
something.
everybody's going to leave because they thought they were going to see a repeat episode of vacuum energy, and now they're going to have to have us watch a new topic. Nobody has time for that. They want to enjoy the classics, such as last week's thrilling episode of Vacuum Energy. So if you notice, you all had bad weather a couple of days ago, and that's because I
Yeah,
bought a new telescope. I
that is
bought
how
a
it works.
I bought a C Star S50.
Are you enjoying it yet, or are you just old man shouting at clouds?
No, well, so last night was clear, but I was totally exhausted, and so
Oh,
I set it up outside and mucked around with it a little bit, and I said, "Okay, I see. I need to spend more time understanding how this thing works." And I immediately learned sort of the big choice that everybody who uses this thing has to make, which is that do you want to use it in alt azimuth mode or do you want to shift it over into equatorial mode? And the answer is you want to shift it over into equatorial mode. So I pointed it at Mars, and then Mars was going, there's Mars, and then jiggle, and then Mars, and then jiggle. And she was
yeah.
like, this is not great. Like every second, every maybe 2 seconds, the target is jiggling.
Oh no. And it's just because
Yeah,
tracking an alt as requires it to be moving two different motors.
that's right. Yeah. And so the equatorial version, you put it on a wedge on your
Yeah.
tripod, and then you angle the wedge at you can sort of modify so you then attach the C star to the end to the top of the wedge, and then you can modify the wedge, and then the C star will tell you when it's in equatorial mode. It'll tell you when you're at the exact right angle for your latitude, and then you have to point it at Polaris. And so the downside is we're getting back to
Polar
having to
aligning.
polar align
Yeah.
your magic telescope. So that just feels wrong. But once you do that, then you're not going to get that jiggle. And it will be able to do 20-second exposures instead of 10-second exposures because it's just
Okay,
more
good.
more stable. So there's definitely value to doing that. But and then it comes with a solar filter, which is really cool. So it's a great piece of kit. And so far, I know this is going to be a good way. But then this is going to be the technology, hopefully, that we're going to be using over at Starfront. That we're going to be
Oh,
able to
cool.
use a bunch of these sea stars to do star parties with,
Good.
and so then I need to figure out how to like actually make this thing work remotely. That you can log into your thing halfway around the world and then mess with its settings. So
Now, is this like the Vionis and so many others where it really wants to be used with an iPad or
that's exactly, yes, but it apparently does have an API that you can actually plug into remotely. So my plan
okay.
is to code up a gadget that lets me connect to the C Star just through my laptop,
Are
and then
you
just
vibe
run
coding?
its controls. Yeah. I'm gonna vibe code it. We'll see if we can pull it off. Someone has made an API. There's like on Git, there's a C Star API that someone has created, but apparently it's not great. So we'll sort of take that, tear it apart for its bits and pieces, and then see if we can make something better. But whole new technology. So it's a brave new world. but I have my actually the tripod that I'm looking at right now is a video tripod with a nice handle for turning it up and down and panning it back and forth. So I will probably swap out tripods and use this tripod for the Sea Star, and then use a simpler tripod for just doing my live streams, because I don't need to change the camera position. So anyway,
That's awesome. That all sounds great. I lost
there
a
you go.
window.
Nicholas B is saying station mode with Wirecast works fine for mine. Unfortunately, the RTSP feed doesn't work when it's doing its internal stacking. Yeah, so like these are all of the downsides that I'm sure we're going to discover. So that, like, how do I have 2 people, 3 people all use sea stars together in a star party where we're
Yeah.
just like, what have you got? Oh, I'm going to shoot at Orion. Okay, great. I'll take a picture of this, and then you see the pictures forming, you can share them and have the output pictures. So that's the plan. But, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of technological headaches between here and there. All right. I guess we should do our show.
Hold on. I lost a window. And this is when I discovered that I have 40 windows open on my computer. I'm just going to have to re-find the page I need. Hold on.
That is inevitable. I've got into a really good habit, which is that I delete my desktop and my downloads folder every day. The next step, I think, is I want to shut everything down every day, so that I just have a fresh laptop when I get to work, and not have do something with your tabs, Fraser. Do something with, I have 7 command prompts going, right? Let's put those away. Let's put your tools away when you're done with them. So
Yeah, no, not going to happen. So this computer, for instance, is in the process of running a simulation for one of my colleagues, because the supercomputer at PSI bit the dust. And so there are a whole bunch of us with Mac Minis who are collectively pretending that we can be a supercomputer. And it's probably going to be running for 6 months in the background. And
Right.
if it crashes, I know how to restart it without losing anything.
yeah,
But
you have to run a command prompt nonstop, right?
yeah. And upstairs, I have on my other computer software that I'm working on developing, and it's a pain in the butt to restart Docker and everything else every time I want to work.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of I understand what you're saying, and for me it's on a
Right.
project, but projects span more days.
So my solution to this is to build a startup script for the various applications, so that now they turn into icons on my taskbar. So if I want to work on one application, I click the button, it loads the command prompt, runs a bunch of startup batch files, and then pops open the application that I'm using. So that's there are solutions to the let's leave all our tools half used kicking around the desktop.
Have you figured out how to do something like open Gemini and return to this conversation I was having before?
Well, I mean, not specifically, but I mean, all of your conversations in Gemini are in your
Yeah.
list. So no, you close it down. You close down the window that has Gemini in it, and then you come back the next day and you're like, I'm going to continue. First thing I'm going to do is open up the tab that has Gemini in it. There's just you don't have to do this, but I don't know about you, but if I do the thing where you minimize, you see all your windows. I must have 40 windows open of text editors and command prompts and browsers, and it's madness, and it just is a messy work. It'd be like I had a messy desk. So.
Yeah. I think the difference is I use Chrome identities religiously, and I will close down the identities that are related to Pamela is working on writing things and has opened 50 windows on the things she's writing about. All of those shall die now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's probably best. All right, let's do our job now.
Okay.
Now, are you ready? How about now?
Now I need to open. I have all the software open. I've made sure it's using the right hardware. I forgot to open the recording file. This is not EVSN. This is Astronomy Cast. This is 753? 2?
752. Hold on. 52. 752.
Okay. Okay, I am pressing record, and I am pressing record. We are recording the things and the stuffs.
Okay, here we go. Astronomy Cast, episode 752. Should we go to the moon or Mars next? Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. I'm Fraser Cain. I'm the publisher of Universe Today. With me, as always, is Dr. Pamela, a senior scientist for the Planetary Science Institute and the director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I am doing well, and happy is that a meteor, a satellite, or a lightning bug season for all those who celebrate.
Wow. I wish we had lightning bugs. We have non-lighting lightning bugs.
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
Those are...
Like they are genetically lightning bugs, but they don't light up, which is really disappointing.
Those are failed lightning bugs.
Yeah, they have one job. But man, spring is just exploding all around us. It's amazing how much of just the swallows are back. All of my tulips are up. The daffodils are up. Like, we are laughing.
And it's the Lyrids and the Eta Aquarids. So if for some reason you feel the need to get up before dawn, it's wild out there. And because it's often easiest to see meteor showers in the couple of hours before astronomical twilight and sunrise, you were seeing them at the same time that sunrise has already occurred at orbit. So I know that the meteor showers are about to tick up at the same time that I start seeing more and more satellites. Yeah. And so I swear it is always this, is that no? Is that no?
No, that meteor is moving too slowly.
Or it's a lightning bug in switch directions. It's one or the other.
Right. And so one other piece of news, I just bought a C-Star S50. We've been touting them, but we've never actually owned them or used them. And so I just got one, and I'm already sort of climbing the difficult mountain of new knowledge. But please, I'm sure some of you out there have these things, and you've already gone through all of the things that you had to learn early on. And so if you got recommendations, let me know, please. All right. We are on the verge of sending humans back to the moon. At the same time, others would prefer we focus our exploration on Mars. It's a tough choice because there are costs and benefits to both. Let's try to give this conversation some nuance, and we will talk about it in a second, but it's time for a break. And we're back. So before we have this conversation, I want to have a larger, fundamental conversation about the value of human space exploration, because I think there's going to be a bunch of people who are listening to this who are going to say, why are you talking about the moon or Mars? The answer is neither. Duh.
Yeah.
That we send the robots. So, like, let's just take a second and explain why we think that there is a place for human space exploration.
So there's two different groups of humans that go to space now. One of them is the folks that are going up on government-funded missions, typically, and these humans are doing this for a trio of reasons. One is just general peacekeeping, being able to keep the International Space Station functioning as a multinational endeavor is perhaps one of the things that keeps the US and Russia talking on good grounds. And our two nations have been, and the USSR prior to that, have been trying to enable peace through science for decades. So peacekeeping is one reason that you put humans in space. Then there is also the fact that we have thumbs and creativity. And having humans in space allows us to tinker and to fix and to figure things out in ways that would require purpose-built robots at this point. So having humans allows creative activities that otherwise just can't quite happen yet. We're really good construction workers and mechanics. And so putting humans in space to do those things that are spur of the moment and to fix those things that suddenly go boink in the night is something that we're also good at. And then the third reason to put us up there is we're studying the biology of it. We are our own test subjects. And we need to fund the humans as test subjects because then there's that second population of humans, the extremely wealthy, who are going to go no matter
think
what.
About them? Yeah.
And it's probably for the best that we're able to go, look, you need to know before you go, this is how you stay alive. Because we have already learned that capitalism causes people to do unsafe things. And unfortunately, an entire crew of submariners thought it was or very wealthy would-be submariners thought it was a good idea to get in a tank controlled by a video game controller to attempt to go to the Titanic. And while going to the bottom of the ocean is actually way harder than going to low Earth orbit, that mission demonstrated people will do stupid things.
So I want to completely disagree with your first two premises and partially disagree with your third premise.
All right, go for it.
I think that there is no reason, no justifiable reason to send humans instead of robots to anywhere, ever.
You think the robots are good enough now?
The robots are good now, and they're going to get better, and they do it for a fraction of the price, and and they are safe, and nobody gets hurt, and so you always send it. Like, if you need an outcome, then you send a robot. If you want to explore Mars, you send a robot. If you want to explore the moon, you send a robot. If you want to explore space, you send a robot. You always send robots, robots. But space is what's next. And so once you have stripped away all of your reasons and rationales and justifications, all you're left with is because that's the next place for human beings to go, because we're curious and we want to do it and we want to prove it. And I think the most powerful words that have ever been spoken about space exploration that came from Kennedy when he said, we choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. That it brings out the best of us, that accomplishing that feat demonstrates to ourselves that that's the thing that we're able to do. And so, when people say we should just send robots to the moon and Mars, I always counter with, well, why don't you just send your iPhone on a European vacation?
So right? I do want to point out, you asked the question to space, and space versus another world are slightly different questions.
Well, I think I think if you were going to use those same reasons, you could still send a robot to Mars. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you send a robot with thumbs. Yeah. So, and I just think that because as soon as you make this argument that we need, that it makes more sense to send a human for all of these different reasons, then someone will go, look, I made a robot, it's got thumbs, and now your argument falls apart, and then human space exploration is locked away forever. Right? An old thumbs bot 2.0 goes to Mars, gives us the thumbs up, and we never send people. And I think we don't want to close off that avenue of exploration, that there's just something special about a human climbing a mountain, about a human getting into a better built submarine and going down to the deep ocean, about a human going to the surface of the moon and a human going to Mars. And that once you strip away all of those reasons, you're left with one that is pure, and there really is no argument against it. We go because that's what's next. We go because that is the heart of exploration.
And humans can be disobedient, which sounds like a really stupid justification. But there's a story of a NASA astronaut basically being like, we're going to get that rock. And it was a rock they weren't supposed to get. It was a rock they were told to ignore, head back, and they got the rock. And the rock turned out, if I'm remembering the story correctly, to have probably been a meteorite from another world that hit the moon that we brought back to Earth.
Yeah. Again, I think we can send Rebellion Bot with thumbs to the moon and Mars. So again, if you're looking for this kind of control rebellion, I think you can still program it into a bot. But okay, so I just wanted to get that first thing. And so the people who are like never send humans, only send robots, like we hear you.
Yeah.
And we disagree, and we disagree for faith-based reasons. So it's really hard to have an argument with us now about this, because we feel in our bones that it would be cool that humans could go to the moon or Mars.
Yes.
All right, now we're going to make the case for those two worlds, but it's time for another break. And we're back. All right, so make the case for sending humans to the moon first.
Launch windows. It turns out that because the moon is going round and round the Earth, and the biggest concern at a certain level about when to land is what is the phase of the moon when you get there, we can pretty much go once a month, no big deal.
Yeah.
And with Mars, we're looking at a launch window November, December 2026, another one December 2028, January 2029.
Yeah, every 2 years.
Yeah. And it turns out iterative design to a point is really the way to figure these things out. So just like with the Apollo program, you go, you orbit, you make sure your spacecraft is good to come home. You go, you almost land, you come home. And this constant iterative design to make sure your spacecraft and everything else works, this get all of your goods there before you get there. You can do all of that so much faster when you have the potential for a monthly cadence of launches.
Yeah. And the flight time to the moon is days, just a couple of days. And so the amount of radiation you're going to experience is very low. The ability to send resupply, and you don't even have to necessarily follow that launch cadence. If you need to send emergency supplies, you could send it off cycle and still have it get there. Like, you're not going to time it perfectly for the day, but it doesn't matter. If they really need more toilet paper, you can send that instantaneously and it'll get there. The amount of time they spend in direct radiation is lower because, in theory, once you're on the moon, you can hide from the radiation. And then when you're done and you want to come home, you can come home anytime you want. And so I 100% agree with you that what you're getting is this launch cadence, this mission cadence that you are quickly cycling through your ideas, you're learning your mistakes, and you're fixing them as rapidly as possible. You're getting 24 times as many chances to learn lessons by going to the moon as you are by going to Mars.
Yeah. It's more like 26, 28, but yeah, it's wildly more chances. And I mean, you can even, if you feel like it, land and take off when it's dark. So come and go as you please. Some of the orbits are slightly more energy efficient than others, but come and go as you please. And while we very rarely take advantage of that with the International Space Station, astronauts who are up there have stayed up there when parents have passed away, when other terrible things have happened down on Earth, and their job kept them in place. But if a medical emergency did arise, we could deal with it in some cases easier than we can deal with medical emergencies in Antarctica. Mm-hmm. So if someone gets cancer on the moon or the International Space Station, we don't have to worry about the fact that it's winter, so you can't take off.
Or you're on Mars,
so
you can't come home.
Right, exactly. So That increased launch window gives us the chance to recover from mistakes. It gives us the chance to iteratively design rapidly. It gives us the chance to just try things and know if this doesn't work, we're just a couple of days away from home.
And like, is that 95% of the reason to go to the moon first?
No, no.
Okay.
The
You think there's some other good reasons that have
Yeah,
nothing to do with cadence. Okay. And distance.
yeah. So beyond that, the moon has some nice places for dealing with thermodynamics, for lack of a better way to put it. The rise and fall of temperatures that you have to deal with on these worlds that don't have as much light are killer. Now, Mars does have something of an atmosphere. It doesn't have the extreme swings in temperature that you find in Mars. But what the moon has is permanently shadowed craters with crater walls that are permanently in sunlight and aren't in places where you
Almost.
have.
They're almost in sunlight. There are permanently shadowed craters, but there aren't any permanently illuminated peaks on the moon. But there are places that are illuminated
Yes. Yeah.
97%.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get a couple of hours of darkness.
Yeah,
And the rest of the time you're in sunlight.
For all intents and purposes of battery packs, they're
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
On Mars, places near the pole have polar ice caps that come and go. And I don't know about you, but I am perfectly comfortable with burrowing into a crater to build a home in its rocky goodness. And I am uncomfortable on Earth's glaciers and definitely do not want to be trying to build a home on Mars glaciers.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And then I think, you're getting 4 times as much sunlight
Yeah.
at Earth and the moon as you are on Mars. Mm-hmm. And so you need dramatically bigger solar panels to be able to accumulate that energy. Once you're out
Yeah.
to Jupiter, I think it's 1/25th the solar energy that you would have to collect. So if you want to live on Europa, and power is going to be power is everything. Like whether or not you survive, it comes down to, can you generate enough energy? You're going to need to have more energy if you're going to go to Mars. So that's another really big one.
And then as you start thinking about needing solar panels, we all have memories of those poor rovers. We were actually together in Huntsville when we learned about Spirit's demise. If you get too much dust piled up on a solar panel, it's no longer going to be able to do its job. And if you get a dust storm that is too thick for too long, it doesn't matter if you are capable of going outside with your squeegee and squeegeeing off that solar panel. If the clouds aren't letting the sunlight through, you're still going to run out of power. And these storms can last tremendous amounts of time. And while things like radiothermal generators are an option, do you want to be living with those? They're great for robots. They're not as dangerous as a lot of news stories make them out to be. But they still don't seem like the solution for keeping your base going during a dust storm.
Yeah, you're going to need some kind of portable fission reactor.
Yeah.
Is probably going to be what it's going to be. You're going to be huddled up to. And, those have challenges all on their own. All right. So, are there any other reasons why you think the moon makes sense?
There's, as far as we know, less deadly stuff in the regolith.
Wait a minute. Now I'm going to question that.
Well,
because it doesn't have perchlorates.
Right. That's what I'm thinking of.
But it is like asbestos compared to the
Yeah.
Mars stuff.
So you're going to bring dust inside in a lot of the different spacesuit scenarios. There are a few that I actually really, really like, where you essentially dock the back of your spacesuit to your habitat and you wiggle your arms out and reach up and pull yourself out, which is going to be easier on the moon than on Mars. And these kinds of scenarios are designed to help keep that sharp as glass, dangerous as asbestos sand out of the confines of the capsule or habitat on the moon.
But it's going to get everywhere. It's going to get into every piece of equipment and machinery and every joint and everything. And this stuff is going to grind and cause wear and tear on equipment.
Yeah, it's gross and terrible. And on Mars, the dust and dirt has been thoroughly weathered. Not as weathered as here on Earth, just because the atmosphere isn't as thick and there hasn't been water for a good long time. But it does have more wear, so we aren't fully, we don't have a dust sample from Mars to understand exactly how does the sharpness compare between the two worlds. But I don't think anyone's planning to try and start a garden with unprocessed regolith that they've just mixed poop in and planted potatoes, all of the Martian.
Those experiments have been run. I mean, not the poop part, but people have attempted to grow plants in lunar regolith. The Chinese did this on the moon. So, all right. Now we're going to make the case for Mars in a second, but it's time for another break, and we're back. All right. So we have it feels like the moon is an overwhelmingly good choice. If you're going to go somewhere, why not go to the moon? But there are some things that Mars has going for it as well. So, where to start? The best place to start is it's at humane temperatures-ish. Ish. So, it can get unfreaking believably cold on Mars, but I still remember the day that Little Opportunity landed. I was in my office in Harvard. They were talking about the temperatures on Mars, and I looked at the the temperature readout for our weather station up on the roof. And it was warmer on Mars that day. Yeah. I mean, near the equator, Mars can get up to 20 Celsius. Yeah, you can get reasonable temperatures-ish. The air pressure is still such that if you attempted to go outside with just an oxygen mask, you would have massive amounts of bruising. The capillaries on your skin would be like, and we explode now! Yeah, it's 100 times less air pressure than Earth. So, but it's still better than the moon. I think, if you want some atmosphere, then Mars is better than the moon. And that atmosphere gives you protection from radiation. It gives you a certain tiny, tiny little level of atmospheric pressure. So though it's still Mars is in the, you're already the air pressure is so low. Well, yeah, but beats the moon. Right. And this also adds a certain dimension of safety. So on the moon, if you put yourself in a permanently shadowed region, which honestly I recommend, your heating goes out, you die because you freeze to death and everything you have with you freezes to non-functionality. You just freeze. If you put yourself in a sunlit area, you're dealing with this constant temperature cycling, hot to cold, hot to cold. And that is not good for any structure because things thermally expand and contract. On Mars, you don't have the same amount of thermal cycling. You have a yearly thermal cycling, and you have more Earth-like day-night, like I said, not identical, temperature cycling. Right. And if your systems go out, this is going to give you a lot more time to try and recover. Right. We know how to dress for the cold. We can send stuff so that these astronauts can literally bundle themselves up and probably not freeze to death while they're trying to fix all of their systems. It also means, because there's more pressure outside, that if you get a leak in your system,
don't do like the Russians did and attack the leak trying to figure out what happened. The video, if you have never seen it, there was a very upset cosmonaut that literally attacked one of the components of the International Space Station trying to figure out a leak. It is hilarious and terrifying. Do not do that. But while you're repairing the leak, air is going to escape slower through the same size holes. So all of these slight improvements buy you time to try and figure out how to fix things that you don't have if you're on the moon.
You've got more gravity.
Yes. So with more gravity, we are still trying to figure out, we do not have enough data on this, how much gravity is necessary to keep human systems happy. We don't know at what point does calcium loss stop being as big a factor. We don't know at what pressure does ocular damage stop being as big an issue. But with higher gravity, if you're trying to compensate through exercise, you're probably not going to have to spend quite so many hours banded up trying to exercise against elastics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that day length, on the moon, it's 14 days of day and 14 days of night.
Yeah.
And on Mars, it's pretty much almost the same as Earth.
Like you get 45 more minutes.
Yeah. So just shy of 25 hours. And that feels like almost the nicest thing. And it's interesting. People have done experiments, like people have gone into caves and let their circadian rhythms just become detached from the actual day-night cycle. And it turns out human beings can shift to longer rhythms.
Yeah.
So it should be easy to adapt to a Mars day.
There was one insane researcher. If he was sane when he went in, he was not entirely sane when he came out, who put himself in a completely dark scenario for, I want to say it was 75 days. And his day-night cycle shifted to about 30 hours.
Yeah.
And
so there's room there to breathe for sure.
Yeah. So the longer day, especially if you put it all into your sleep, Lord knows most of us don't get enough sleep. It's going to be a good thing.
Yeah. And then, we talked about, and I think this one is the wash, which is that on the moon, the regolith is glass and will cause long-term health damage if it gets into your body and into your bloodstream. It is less jagged on the moon, but on Mars, but still not totally safe. Like there's some, there's some research we've been reporting on this. Well, not even just the perchlorates. We'll get to that in a second, but that even the shape of the stuff on Mars is potentially dangerous. That it can be, very small, very, the dust can go into your lungs and can cause potentially damage, emphysema, bronchitis, things like that. So, but on Mars, it is filled with perchlorates, or not filled, but has like 1% of its weight is perchlorate, which is poison.
Yeah.
So you have to wash this stuff if you want any chance of interacting with it and not causing damage. Your poop potatoes will need to be in washed perchlorate, not washed regolith, not
regolith,
just straight up. Yeah. Are there any other advantages to being on Mars?
So,
moons?
I mean, there is option C. And any of you who remember the early days of the Constellation program back under the Obama administration, it feels like every president has their own goals for space exploration. There, the idea was moon, asteroid, Mars. And the reason that you want to go to something like a distant moon, so Phobos, Deimos, go to an asteroid that is not in the main asteroid belt but is closer, is these are that intermediate experiment where we don't know if we can successfully land on Mars and then take back off. It could very easily be a one-way journey. we know that we know how to take back off of lower gravity things like the moon. And asteroids come in sizes that are very moon-like and smaller down to as small as you want, basically. And so these lower gravity environments allow us to go someplace that has all the challenges of Mars in terms of distance, in terms of light travel time, lag. That's something that didn't come up, is you can have an awkward real-time conversation with someone on Earth if you're on the moon. You're looking at times when there's absolutely no communications allowed because the sun is annoyingly located. With Mars, there's blackout windows. There's 20-minute delays even in some of the most optimum conditions.
And then I think there's a bunch of stuff that's a wash.
Yeah.
There's lava tubes on both worlds,
Exactly.
so you can use those. There are local resources that you can use, various kinds of metals and silicon and oxygen and all this kind of stuff on both. There is access to water in both places, in different spots. So I think a lot of that stuff is a wash. So I think we've reached the end of our episode now. So I guess we'll both vote, but I suspect we're going to say the same thing, which is that if you then had to come, someone said, choose, Pamela, you got to decide. It's one or the other. We're going to the moon, we're going to Mars, or to an asteroid first. What is your answer?
The moon.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the moon. It's so clearly the moon. But okay. And I want to throw a bone to the Mars people.
Yeah.
If we, in all of humanity's future space exploration, were only able to go back or go to one of those worlds, and we did it and we were very successful, which is the one that you would have preferred that we would have gone to?
Mars, because I want to go fossil hunting.
Mars.
Yeah.
Mars would be, the one that we want to go to is Mars.
Yeah.
But the one that we think is practically makes sense is the moon first, then go to Mars. So I think we have no disagreement with the Mars people.
Right.
It's just baby steps.
Can we practice first?
Can we practice first? Yeah. Yeah, before we put it all on the line and go to the world that is so much farther and so much more dangerous.
Yeah. And like I said,
we aren't going to get one.
Hunting. You can do fossil hunting on Mars.
Yeah. Mars is just so cool.
Yeah.
And all of these places, someone's mentioning in the chat, right? Valles Marineris, Olympus Mons, this incredible terrain that Mars is just going to feel like, to be in that 1/3 gravity, Mars is going to feel like another place. It is the one that I emotionally would rather us explore. If someone's saying we've already been to the moon, that's exactly true. We've already been to the moon. So Mars is the one that emotionally we want to go to. But practically, if we want to do this right, if we want to be careful and rational, we go to the moon first, we learn all our skills, and then we go to Mars.
And I want to recommend the book Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. It's older, but it still stands up as one of the few to look at all the sociological issues of going to Mars. And don't buy into terraforming. That's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. And then I think the one that will talk you out of all of the reasons that people give for going and living on Mars.
I know what book you're going to say.
Is A City on Mars by Zach and Kelly Wiener-Smith.
Exactly.
It's so good.
Yeah.
You're going, I think we should build a giant city on Mars. You'll come out the other side of it going, there is no point to build a giant city on Mars. So, all right. Well, that was awesome. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you, Fraser. And thank you to all of our patrons out there. We would not be here without you. This week, I want to thank Sergei Manilov, Conrad Haling, Tasha Nakini, the mysterious Mark, Hale McKinney, John Herman, Joanne Mulvey, Katie and Alyssa, Papa Hot Dog, Michael Hartford, Will Hamilton, Fairchild, Just As It Sounds, J.P. Sullivan, Galactic President Scooper Star McScoopsalot, Boogie Nuts, Zeggy Kemmler, David Trogue, Nick Boyd, William Andrews, Alexis, Adam Annis Brown, Astro Sets, Gold, Simon Parton, Claudia Mastriani, Abraham Cottrell, Arctic Fox, Andrew Stevenson, Jim McGeehan, Grigory Singleton, David Gates, Georgie Ivanov, Iran Segrev, Father Prax, Nate Detweiler, Dwight Ilk, Disastrina, Lou Zealand, Paul D. Disney, Peter, Alex Rain, Ruben McCarthy, Astro Bob, Alan Gross, Elliot Walker, Jeff McDonald, David Rosetta, Travis C. Porco, Mike Haizu. Thank you all so very much.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everyone. And then they saved. Okay, so there was a fabulous comment over on Twitch from Broken Symmetry saying, are non-lightning lightning bugs thunder bugs?
That's awesome. They also don't make a thunder sound, though.
That is very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it really feels like we've been robbed here. I mean, they're cute bugs.
So we have like your standard generic lightning bugs that just like go off, just one-offs and zoom around and are mostly down low in the grass. What always gets me is the videos of the places in the world where the lightning bugs are in sync and the entire forest is
That's
like
amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. I love lightning bugs. We have them here. About once a year, I will wake up in the middle of the night, or I will have been reading in bed with just like a little tiny light, and I'll see something zip across my room illuminated, and it will for a moment scare the bejesus out of me. And it's always a lightning bug that got into the house. So that is the only drawback to lightning bugs is they will cause you to get unexpected cardio periodically.
So the closest thing that we have is we have bioluminescence in the ocean.
I love that.
Yeah. And so you can go swimming at night.
Oh, wow.
And it's the weirdest experience because you are, you can watch like your friend dive into the water and then they leave this trail of blue glow behind them. And you just like stand in the water and you just move your hands around and swirls go out from your hands with bioluminescence. It's absolutely stunning. I don't see a lot of questions. Do you have any questions over on?
So
everyone just agrees with us. Nobody's getting mad and nobody's asking us questions. Is that it? Have we beaten you down, all of this, our audience, to the point that you're just like, yeah, you know, whatever. Space exploration is hard.
Yeah. So Trillium points out the ultimate practical 1,000 plus year goal, and I like that addition to it. Is the all our eggs out of one basket, which means Mars and beyond. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people who and we can all name them, who are very vocal about we need to in our lifetime. And that implies that in our lifetime, Earth will become uninhabitable, which really tells me we should be spending our billions on all of the programs that are currently getting canceled in the United States to monitor climate, to monitor weather, to protect the environment. If you are truly concerned that on this generation or within our grandchildren's lifetimes, generations, that we need to have a secondary base for humanity, that means you're spending money in the wrong places.
Yeah, like like we can just go through the list.
Yeah.
Right? What are the potential existential crises that humanity faces that needs to get us ecological disaster? Well, the most effective way that we can prevent an ecological disaster is to spend the money here on Earth.
Yeah.
A nuclear war, well, we can spend time, energy, and effort to decrease the amount of weapons. Asteroid strike, we can detect asteroids and we can move them. If you know, we know that there are no global destructive asteroids that are going to affect us within the next couple of 100,000 years. There are smaller ones.
YR24, I think that's the correct 4-digit license plate. Looks like it has a 3 to 4% chance of hitting the moon. And I have to say, I am pro hit the moon so we can
totally
learn about impacts.
Yeah. And the one that people are like, what about AI? Well, you don't think the robots can chase us to Mars? They'll gladly chase us to Mars.
Silence. Has no one learned?
Yeah, you can't run from the robot apocalypse by going to Mars. The robots just make rockets and they go after you. So no, all of the and then no matter what we could do, no matter how bad Earth could get, it is still dramatically better than Mars. So, but I think the other part of this is that, when you look at humanity's increasing gross domestic product, just our increasing energy use, that within just a few hundreds of years, we will be a solar system spanning civilization, just like as a natural outcome of our continued growth and capability and scientific progress and all this kind of stuff. So really, it's all just about arguing about time frame. And I think the people who are pro Mars or even living on the moon are just like, I want it now.
We also need to do better education on some things. One of the things that's really starting to be brought up more and more is the energy demands of artificial intelligence. And this doesn't mean don't use artificial intelligence. It means use it responsibly. So like when you and I were kids, we lived in a world where they were like, turn off the lights, don't waste electricity. And it was just like a moral obligation not to leave things turned on that you shouldn't. When I was in the UK, I noticed every single outlet has its own on-off switch in some modern buildings.
That's cool.
Yeah, just so you can turn off outlets because of the amount of energy getting drawn by all the stupid LED indicators on powered off.
I want some of those. Those are that's a really cool idea.
It's a super cool idea.
Yeah.
And so like, if you're going to be serious about, well, the LEDs in my powered off electronics are drawing too much electricity, so I'm going to turn those suckers off. There was a stat over the weekend that people participating in the online have AI draw you as an action figure toy package meme that went around used as much electricity as, I want to say it was New Zealand or Madagascar. It was a small island nation, but the fact that a meme used as much electricity as a small island nation was just sort of like,
right, but
why am I turning off my VCR?
How much energy would it have taken for a person to manufacture a small action figure of you, put it into a blister pack, take a picture, and share it on the internet? It would use more energy. So what it is that we're using this for frivolous things.
Yeah.
Right? That there are, like, any activity that you do with AI would require dramatically more energy if you did it without AI. It's just that we're doing things with AI that we would never do without AI.
Yes. And so this is where we just need to think through what we're doing.
Yes.
It's like, should I open the window in the attic in winter all because the dog farted? No, because that's going to spend a whole lot of heat and I need to just live with what the dog has just done.
Oh.
So we just need to think through how we're, and that thinking part isn't connecting yet.
I've heard that soon 99% of electricity use will be AI.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, and that's
and that feels perfectly reasonable to me. Not like that's a good thing, although it might be a good thing if what we're doing is curing cancer, but if we're just making action figures, then maybe not. But I think we are in this time when we need, at a time when we're dealing with global warming and all these other issues, then us putting out excess greenhouse gases is something that we should be really concerned about. Yeah.
And the argument of, but it would cost so much more to hire an artist to do the thing. I think we need to figure out right now, there's a whole lot of venture capital going into AI that's offsetting the prices so that I can go to Gemini and figure out how to write a query I am too lazy to hand type in for my database. So I can right now choose to go in, copy in my table schema and say, write me the update query for this because I feel lazy.
Like you feel lazy because you want to be more efficient. You would like that now, please.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I don't think you're being lazy.
it feels like I'm being lazy. I was raised in New England. I come by my guilt naturally. I was
Okay,
surrounded by
yeah, this sounds like
Catholic
something
and
you need to
Jewish
unpack with your
grandmothers.
therapist. Yeah.
Yes. But at the same time, there's a whole lot of hidden costs that I'm not actually paying that are currently getting paid by venture capitalists that are allowing companies that are losing money to continue to exist. So
That's normal.
yeah, that's totally normal.
Yeah.
And so what we have to question though is the AI actually saving the entire global economy money when it produces that artwork, or would paying a human being on Fiverr, which is terrible amounts of money to pay people, would that actually be cheaper? And could we actually pay someone a living wage to create something at the same cost of what venture capitalists are paying for
No.
the energy, the servers, and everything else?
No, I think I mean, right now, making artwork with ChatGPT is theft of intellectual
Intellectual
property
property.
from artists.
Yeah.
And because they were trained without permission and without any kind of license and attribution. And so the obvious solution is that you pay the artists.
Yeah.
And then they can choose to be in the training data or not be in the training data.
Yeah.
And then if they are in the training data, they can choose to be like have their art style be something that can be called upon by the model. And the billions of dollars that are going into these models and into the training them would have to pay a little bit more money
Yeah.
to the various artists. It wouldn't be a lot. And then you would get artists developing new styles and being compensated for their work and being able to then have that go into training data. So like that is the obvious solution. And the same thing goes for writers, the same thing goes for books, all that kind of stuff. You write a book and you get paid $10,000 for the book.
And I agree with everything you're saying, and I have not been able to get a tech bro to agree.
And then the publisher says, oh, and also, do you want an additional $10,000 for the AI rights?
Right.
And you're like, what does that mean? You're like, well, then all of the AI companies can train on this book and they can provide answers that incorporate this book and will provide you attribution or not, depending on which deal you strike. You maybe get $30,000 for no attribution or $10,000 for attribution. And then you go, I'll take the $30,000 and I don't care. So then you make a lot more money. And the tech pros, they have to pay a little bit more money to train their models. But now everybody is compensated in the entire system. That is the thing.
So the I wish to God I could get people to listen to that what you just said, because I have said very similar to that many times.
Yeah, that's the obvious answer to this problem.
So the response I always get to saying that is twofold. The first, like, I totally don't agree with, and but that would undermine the companies and they no longer. I don't care.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Like, they'll figure it out.
The second argument is that artists learn by going to museums, by going through coffee table books, by consuming art, by replicating the masters, and AI just does it faster. And I'm like,
it's not. That is
not
not
the same thing. And I don't know how to get through to people that it's not the same thing.
It's like I understand the argument that feels, but it's the practical outcome is that you can go give me an illustration. I'm going to create the cover for a book, and I'm going to say, give me a cover for my book in the art style of some famous fantasy artist, and then it does it, and you're like, great, now I don't need to hire the artist. Like, it causes obvious harm
Yeah.
to the person that you are naming to create the art.
Yeah.
So like the harm is just super obvious here. And so the solution is only train your AI on stuff that is in the public domain, or that you have licensed the rights for,
Yeah.
in a way that makes the right holder feel is a fair deal. And until that happens, this fight is going to continue.
Yeah.
And the outcome is either going to be artists are going to no longer be able to make art, and therefore the models will no longer be able to create art because they'll have nothing to train on because all of the artists starved, or they will figure out a new normal that they will actually compensate artists or writers or video creators or musicians for something that feels like a fair deal to the people who are making this stuff. And then that creates an entire exciting field where
And I
people are
agree with all of
collaborating with
this.
AI, and the AIs are going, hey, I need a way to express this emotion. Help me out here. And then a human artist can go, oh, I've got some good ideas. And then they collaborate. So right now it's just this machine that feeds on human creativity.
Yeah.
And makes stuff that's really cool. I made some Ghibli pictures. They were cool. But I think this stuff is for personal use only. Like, you don't, like, I've really dialed back our use of AI on Universe Today in terms of like before, in the beginning I was like, oh, this is really cool and it lets me use some images, but I pretty much don't do it ever anymore because it hasn't been people aren't making meaningful, like in the beginning, like you could see that this was exciting and there's going to be we're going to have to work this out and let's hammer it out. But they've had time to come up with something that compensates the people for their creation, and that hasn't come up yet. And yet at the same time, everything that I do is Creative Commons 4.0, and I let all the AI robots train as much as they want on everything that I make, because everything I make is available for free.
Yeah.
And including if AI wants to train on it. So, I understand that I have a different personal stance, and that's because the patrons allow us to release everything we create for free. And so,
And we both do this. And it's sort of like both Astronomy Cast and Escape Velocity Space News periodically run on Now Media Television. We're running on television stations.
Yeah.
And because we're released under Creative Commons, we don't see a penny for that.
Yeah. It's funny, people like bother to send me messages saying, can we translate your stuff? Yes.
Yeah.
Can we include it in a book? Yes. Doesn't matter. Go ahead. So, I don't think it's a simple, but I don't think this can stand. Like, I don't think this can continue on.
No.
That they're going to have to. And, some people are starting to work, and like, I know Photoshop.
Yeah, Adobe is actually compensating people to be able to use. I had a really good conversation with one of the folks at what's it called? It's their online podcast editing stuff that is really good at getting rid of background noise. And I was like, how are you doing this where it doesn't, like, normally when you remove background noise, there's this weirdness because the human voice is no longer having the same frequencies in it that had to get removed because of the fan or whatever was in the background. And it's because they've trained it on so many different things that it can fill in those missing wavelengths using AI.
Yeah.
And so it's just like when Adobe allows you to remove the cow from the field you took a picture of. It's simply been trained on enough grassy fields it knows how to do that.
Yep.
And they paid for all the samples that they used to train.
That's it. That's all.
That's the key.
And yes, it's going to cost you billions.
Yeah.
But it will create an entirely new economy for creative work.
Yeah.
And I think will open up new collaborations between people who are using technology and people who are using the old school way of doing it. As long as everyone's compensated, then it's fine.
And it's clearly labeled. So like if you use Adobe Express, they clearly label which of their stock images are AI generated and regular.
Yeah.
And this ability to make choices really matters.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, which is making sure that your stuff is clearly labeled
Yeah.
AI generated. But that's a whole other conversation for us to have. All right, and we've already gone over time. I
Oh,
hope you
yeah.
enjoyed the excess rants. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us today. Thanks in advance to the people who are going to have to edit this nonsense. What's coming up, Pamela?
Uh, we are all eagerly awaiting here in the United States just what is coming for a new NASA budget and administrator. And I am working on an in-depth piece on current funding hits and what all has gone missing that I've been able to round up. And I have to admit, I'm hating every moment of it, but it's necessary work.
Yeah. Yeah, still waiting to report on anything.
So one of the big things that is slowly killing, it's killing us slowly. Normally, the big funding call for all science in NASA comes out February 14th. It's called ROSES, which is an acronym that actually has a good meaning, but the fact that it normally comes out February 14th, it's just cute. It's still not released. We have no new funding calls released for FY25.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone, and we will see you all next week.